lucky that Vogue was suing, cause I would've been with the washes in Paris.
All right, what's up, everybody? Got a fun little video for you today. Kind of feel like I may want to do this once a month because I just watch so much movies and I like to talk about them and not make a huge video for every single one because some are old, but some are new. So yeah, I think I'll tell you everything I watched in July. Let's go. All right, so July 1st, I watched a movie called A Ghost Story, and I had never heard about this movie before. And I think it came out in 2017, but it wasn't until like last month in June, I saw a TikTok with footage from this movie, and it was like really beautiful and really interesting. If you've seen the movie, you know what the ghost looks like. It's basically just a bed sheet covered over Casey Affleck. But it was shot in an intriguing way, and it caught my eye. So I watched it, read the reviews, heard it was really good, but a little different. And yeah, I watched it, and it was one of those movies where there's not much dialogue. It's very aesthetic and quiet, and that's the point. But it's about, what is it about? It's about this couple that you're shown, Casey Affleck and Maya Rooney Mara. That's what it is, not Maya. Rooney Mara. Casey Affleck, Rooney Mara. It's a couple, and unfortunately, the husband is killed in an accident. And then it shows the husband coming back as a ghost and kind of just going through time in a very introspective way. Don't want to give much away. I really recommend you see this movie. At first viewing, it was a little too slow for me. You know, it's just a short movie. It's only 90 minutes, but you get halfway through it, and I started to feel like, okay, what's so great about this? Because all the reviews were glowing. Everyone was like, this movie is so sad. It made me think about my own life, blah, blah, blah. And so halfway through, I'm like, it's an interesting movie. I'll give it that. But nothing tugging at the heartstring or making me really think about my own life. Until the damn ending. And when you see the story just come together, that's when you're able to look back at everything you've seen before, and it just hits. It hit me, at least, like a train wreck, and it really made me just think about my own life for basically the week after. Like, it's one of those movies that just, you see it and it sticks with you. So I really recommend A Ghost Story. It's like 5 years old now, but it's on I rented it. It wasn't really on any streaming, but well worth $4 if you want to rent it. It's one of those movies where it sticks with you. So yeah, definitely recommend A Ghost Story. All right, next was a movie I randomly watched at like 11 o'clock at night because I was really bored, I couldn't sleep. And it's a movie that it's like one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. And I hadn't watched it for probably almost 10 years. And that movie is Edward Scissorhands. Now, I remember watching this as a kid on DVD, and it's one of those movies where the music in this movie, I have been humming to myself randomly throughout my life, like almost once a week, it feels like. And it's just the soundtrack, because it's a Danny Elfman soundtrack. If you know Danny Elfman, you know his signature sound. He's done so many movies. But that Tim Burton sound that he has with all the movies he's done with Tim Burton, Edward Scissorhands, Nightmare Before Elm Street, Nightmare Before Christmas. Oops. I think he did Beetlejuice too. And then Batman movies, obviously. There's just a sound. And when I heard it for the first time in like 10 years, for real, instead of me just like remembering it, brought a tear to my eye. I swear to God, this movie, again, if you haven't seen Edward Scissorhands, I think it is Tim Burton's best film. And I don't know if that's a hot take. It may be a hot take, because if you think about, so Tim Burton had Pee-wee's Big Adventure, rest in peace to Paul Rubin. But that was I think his directorial debut in like 84 or something. And then he had Beetlejuice, I think in 88, Batman 89, Edward Scissorhands 90, Batman Returns 91, Nightmare Before Christmas 92. I mean, dude, talk about just a run Tim Burton had. But I think Edward Scissorhands is his best film. And actually, I researched it. Apparently, it's on the internet. Tim Burton loves Edward Scissorhands the most out of all the movies he's ever made. So I think that's all you gotta hear about that, because this movie, Johnny Depp and Winona Ryder just work in this movie. Johnny Depp's acting is amazing with what he has. He's literally like this machine boy who doesn't know what to be, what to do, but he has like feeling. And I love the contrast in the movie. It's like, it's a Tim Burton movie, so like it doesn't feel like a real world. It feels like a fictional place in like another fantasy somewhere. Every house is colorful. Every house is the same. All the husbands leave at the same time to go to work. All the housewives are just doing whatever the hell they want to do, gossiping and BSing all day till the husbands come home. The aesthetic of it, and then you have this scary castle just in the middle of the hometown, and no one's like, hey, I wonder who's up there. No, it's so Tim Burton with the aesthetic, but all the people in the nice, colorful, perfect little homes and neighborhoods are mean, are like messed up, gossipy, snobby, full of themselves, just annoying people. And then you have this machine boy, whatever, Edward Scissorhands, that this maker made a long time ago, but unfortunately died before he could finish Edward. Living in this creepy castle is more loving, affectionate, and emotional than the people who have like everything. I love that contrast in the movie where Edward is fallen for Winona Ryder's character. Can't really have what he wants because he has these scissor hands. Can't hold her. He's afraid of hurting her or anybody, even though he feels so much. And he's surrounded by this perfect neighborhood and group of people that want to exploit him, abuse him, make fun of him. And so I didn't catch that years ago when I first watched this movie. I haven't seen this movie in like 10 years. And so watching it now as an adult, I finally saw like, oh, I see the message. Before I was just like, wow, what a fantasy land, and the music's amazing, and oh, I feel bad for Edward, blah, blah, blah. But now seeing it again as an adult, I really appreciated what Tim Burton was going for with the contrast of the scary building and the dude, but the dude being the most wholesome, caring person surrounded by a bunch of perfect looking people that are not very nice. Also, Winona Ryder, babe, gosh. So if you've never seen Edward Scissorhands or it's been a while, please check that out. That movie, top 10 for me all time, I'm telling you. All right, next is probably another top 10 for all time that I have not watched in a long time, but it was a movie. If you've never seen this movie, you either never went to school or were born like 10 years ago. This movie is Heavyweights. Remember being in school and always being shown this movie in either PE or just just daycare? Seriously, I feel like every week I was shown this movie either in school or in daycare, like when I was 5, 6, 7, 8. And it's such a classic. Heavyweights. It's again one of those movies where they just don't make them like this anymore. They just don't. It's a Judd Apatow movie, kind of. I mean, I think he wrote it, but he wasn't really a big name yet, like he was with like the Seth Rogen movies. But he's a part of it. You have Kenan Thompson in his prime when he was on Nickelodeon. Ben Stiller doing his best role. This and Dodgeball are like his best comedic acts when he's this tough macho dude who's like crazy. That's his best shtick. Heavyweights, Tony Perkis. I'm feeling skinny, Tony. It's like, dude, one of the best comedic performances ever. Seriously, it's hard to find clips of it on YouTube. I tried, and it's just not that available. I mean, I found the whole movie in Spanish. But if you have Disney Plus, watch this movie. It is one of the funniest movies. Yeah, sure, are some things like mean-spirited because it's like a fat camp. I didn't send you to go-kart camp. Some of it's kind of hasn't aged well, but I'll argue like it has aged well because it's funny. Everyone is just in on the jokes. It's a good time. It's just a bunch of kids having a good time. It's realistic. Come on. If you're ever at camp or if you're ever overweight or if you had overweight friends, it's realistic. And so it's so quotable with Ben Stiller. I mean, when he's running up and he's doing his morning hike and he runs up to the log. Come on, you devil log! And then he's going through the kids' freaking stash of treats and he's like, oh look, a deli meat. It's just, that movie is so quotable with everybody. You have Laz, the Arnold Schwarzenegger guy. Kenan Thompson's hilarious. The mini Joey Diaz dude, I forget his name. He had some struggles, as an adult, but in this movie, he was in the Mighty Ducks. He was in Heavyweights. He's the mini Joey Diaz, like I say. But this movie is just one of the funniest movies I have ever seen. It's a crime that it's not talked about enough. Seriously, it's a movie that I think Disney would never make again. And actually, I saw an interview of Ben Stiller back in the day talking about, well, it was a recent interview, but he was asked about how it was working on Heavyweights. And even back then, they were shocked that Disney made this film. So it's just, if back then they were kind of like going there with some things, then they're not going to make it now. But it's available. It's on Disney Plus. I'm feeling skinny, Tony. Okay. So now we're starting to get into the new releases of what came out this month in theaters. And first off, I want to start off with Sublime. Barbie was so fun. I saw it with my sister and her fiance, and it was packed. All the women were dressed up in pink, or so I saw a lot of women dressed up as like straight up Barbies or fairies and all that stuff. I saw a bunch of boyfriends being dragged into it. It was a packed theater, and it was just a fun movie. I know there's been a lot of controversy. There's a lot of BS people on the internet trying to make this a big deal, or saying how woke it is, how, anti-men it is. And I'll be honest, walking into it, I was expecting that there may be some dumb jokes about men in it, or just low-hanging fruit that's just not funny or blah, blah, blah. But no, I think this movie is pro-women and pro-men. It leans on the women's side. Obviously, it's freaking Barbie. But I think they had a good message with Ken, with Ryan Gosling. Favorite part, by the way, probably just because I'm a dude. But the message with Barbie is like, it's so hard being a woman with all these expectations, all these stereotypes that a lot of women aren't, a lot of the pressures of being a woman. But also with Ken's story, yeah, it's silly and dumb and over the top, but it's basically also telling men that we also have those pressures that are kind of bullshit. Men have to be a certain way, women have to be a certain way, but sometimes that's not how we are, and it's okay to be different or just do our own thing. And also, there's a bunch of people out there that tell you this is what a woman is, this is what a man is. If you're not doing this, if you're not like this, if you don't feel this way, if you don't talk this way, you're not a man and you're not a woman. And that's the message I got from Barbie, because they're poking fun at the patriarchy, and with Ken going into the real world and immediately seeing that, oh, in Barbie land, Kens are second thought. They're in the background. No one cares about Ken. But in the real world, Kens rule the world. Sublime! And he gets brainwashed into thinking money, politics, blah, 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 blah. And then he comes into Barbie land and he tries to make it Ken land and all that stuff. That was funny. Come on, Ben Shapiro. Come on, people of the internet. Just smile a bit. It's a joke. Yes, there are things out there nowadays that are clearly agenda driven. They want to shove your message down. That's on both sides. But this movie, I didn't feel that. I felt like it was a clear message and they were having fun with it. And so with Barbie, I absolutely loved it. It's going to be one of my top 5 films of the year, probably. It's pro-women, it's pro-man. It was an awesome time. Loved the music, loved the look of it. Greta Gerwig, awesome director. All the performances were great. Some things, it did kind of fall flat with some of the messaging. It felt like there was so much it was wanting to say that some of the messages were given more time than others to like be fleshed out, and some worked more than others. But Barbie was fantastic. There's a reason why it's going to make $1 billion. Barbie was great. All right. Next, we have the other side of the coin with the past couple weeks with Oppenheimer. And okay, I got to come clean. I put out my review of Oppenheimer the day after I saw it, and I've had a lot more time with it. Obviously, it's been over a week. Oh no, what day is it? No, it has been over a week. Okay. Look, in my review, I said it's my film of the year. I think I have to retract that statement. With Oppenheimer, I went into it, and again, I think this is my fault. I went into this movie expecting more about the bomb dropping and the creation. And what you get is, the movie's not called Fat Man and Little Boy or Enola Gay or like Atomic Bomb. It's called Oppenheimer. I didn't read the book American Prometheus, and I've kind of read that. If you've read that book, you're going to get a lot more out of this movie than if you haven't. With that being said, this movie technically is phenomenal. Seeing it in IMAX was one of the greatest theater experiences. It was tremendous. Tremendous. At the same time, I just, thinking now, having time to, marinate it, I just didn't care about Oppenheimer, Strauss, or any of the characters. And I'm a huge fan of Christopher Nolan. I love his movies. But there is a weakness with Christopher Nolan I've noticed. Some more than others. Some movies he nails it, others he doesn't. It's the emotional side. I think Interstellar is his most emotional movie that hits. That like gets you. But all the beats in this movie where I feel like he was wanting us to feel bad for Oppenheimer, have an emotional payoff with certain characters, it just wasn't there. I mean, the Florence Pugh character, I just didn't care. There wasn't enough of it fleshed out. And Oppenheimer as a character, it's like he created the atomic bomb. That's huge. It's scary. And the ending of this movie really hit me in the feels the one time out of the whole movie of like the Pandora's box that they opened and that will never be closed. That was effective. But Oppenheimer as a character, he made the bomb. And yes, he was kind of targeted by government officials later on with the whole communist stuff, but it's not like his life was destroyed. It's not like this was a guy who just was destroyed by the government when he wasn't. And then like years later, he gets his medal and everyone's like, sorry. He just was unfairly treated by a guy, Louis Strauss, who was a straight up narcissist. And like in the line when he's mad that he feels that Einstein was turned on him by Oppenheimer, when really their conversation, Oppenheimer and Einstein, is just a total depressing conversation. And he just didn't want to talk. That was effective too, but it's not like one of these movies where like this guy gets beaten down, destroyed, and then you watch the movie where he's apologized to or he fights his way, blah, blah, blah. No, it's just unfortunate some of the things that happened with Oppenheimer. And really the most effective thing was him contemplating and thinking about what he has done, right? The whole speech when he's seeing the flashing light, the skin melting off, dead bodies and all that stuff. It's like, that's effective. I feel like I just didn't like this movie. Like it's one of those, it's like the Phantom Menace effect. Back in the day, people wanted to see the Phantom Menace so much because it had been so long since the new Star Wars. Now I love Phantom Menace. That's another topic. I fucking love that movie. But at the time, a lot of people were in denial what they thought of it. They were like, it's new Star Wars. It has to be good. It is good. Blah, blah, blah. Then when they thought about it, they were kind of indifferent about it. That's how I feel about Oppenheimer. Technically, amazing. Acting, amazing. Cinematography, amazing. Writing, amazing. Story, meh. Like, I still think it's one of the best movies of the year, but I just have no urge to see it again. I'd rather watch a bunch of other Nolan movies than Oppenheimer. Really weird. One of the weirdest just movie feelings after the fact. Because usually I'm very consistent. When I see the movie, I walk out of it. Pretty much my feelings of that movie stick forever. This was one of those movies where the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, I'd rather watch Barbie. All right. The next thing is a new TV show. So we've been talking about movies, but how about a new TV show? My Adventures with Superman. Really, really good. I mean, no one's really talking about it. When it premiered, there was kind of some hype, but it's on Adult Swim. And then I've been watching it on Max. Awesome show. I mean, truly. The characters are amazing. The anime style is awesome. I love Lois and Clark's dynamic. Seriously, this may be my favorite interpretation of Lois Lane. And just a solid show. I mean, I think it's on episode 5 now, and I need to watch it after this because I've only seen like the first 4. Awesome show. Yeah. If you love Superman, if you kind of like a new take, because it's been a while since we had a animated Superman, and so this is like anime style. Really go watch it. It's some of the best DC stuff that I've seen in a while, and yeah, it's nothing special. It's like for teenagers. There's some imagery and some flirting where it's like, yeah, this isn't a kid's show, but it's also nothing like grand, like a Zack Snyder tone or, DCU and all that stuff. It's just a nice Adult Swim demographic show. So I really recommend that. It's been fantastic so far. Okay. All right. I saw this, okay. Now I got to tell you that leading up to Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, I had never seen a Mission Impossible movie. You what? Until May this year. Seriously, I don't understand. I've seen so many Tom Cruise movies, just never Mission Impossible. So starting in May, I started watching all. And then in July, I finished up with Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, Fallout, and then Dead Reckoning. Ghost Protocol, I have a shorts ranking up already. It's one of my favorites. I think Dead Reckoning is probably my favorite as of now. That may be recency bias. I watched all of them like back to back pretty much. Dead Reckoning, is just fantastic. It looks like it's not going to turn out to be another Top Gun situation. It kind of got overshadowed by Barbie and Oppenheimer, which is unfortunate because I think it's better than both those movies. I think Dead Reckoning is the best movie I've seen in July and may probably be my movie of the year now that I'm thinking about Oppenheimer differently. But Ghost Protocol, the most fun and just like on the edge of my seat. Rogue Nation is amazing too, but out of the Christopher McQuarrie MI movies, that's the least favorite. Fallout, Henry Cavill is amazing. The action's amazing. That's my number 2. But Dead Reckoning, seeing it in the theater, this may be recency bias because this was the first one I saw in a theater. So seeing it on the big screen, the Cinemark XD, blah, 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 all that stuff. I'm sure it had it's like the first one you see in theaters, so it kind of sticks. Anyway, I like this villain more. The actual person guy, don't really care about, but the AI aspect was freaky because it's not far away from what's possible, right? If this movie was maybe made 20 years ago, yeah, it may be more science fiction-y, but nowadays, the fact that it was like tricking each member of the crew based off like the AI and the algorithm, all that stuff, that was fascinating. The return of like Kid Rich from the first one, like this Dead Reckoning felt like the successor of Mission Impossible 1 with the action and style of Fallout, right? With the Dutch angles aspects, Kid Rich being back, it just felt more like Mission Impossible 1 inspired than any of the other one. And I loved it for it. The airplane or the airport scene, edge of my seat. Desert scene, edge of my seat. The Venice part, edge of my seat. Train part, oh my God. It's just fantastic action movie all around. You go to the movies for these types of experiences, and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning gives it to you and then some. Yeah, my movie of the year. There you go. That's not changing. All right. And then here's a random movie that I just turned on because of nostalgia, because I saw a TikTok of it. And I'm like, I loved this movie like in 2002. Eating my chicken nuggies, coming home from like daycare and turning this movie on. And this movie's Masters of Disguise with Dana Carvey. The doodle, doodle. I remember loving this movie, and whenever they would laugh and then fart, that was the funniest thing. But I was also 7 years old. I turned it on now as a 28-year-old. I couldn't last 10 minutes. Could not. I saw the Rotten Tomatoes score and I was like, how is this movie like a 0%? I loved this movie as a kid. Watching it now, yeah, dude. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. Terrible. Terrible. Maybe good on shrooms or some other stuff, but wow, I couldn't last 10 minutes. I had to turn it off. Terrible. Anyway, side note. Now another movie that I just saw a couple days ago that is just an awesome movie was Talk to Me. I've been getting more into horror over the past couple years. Back in the day, my horror, stuff that I was into was like Saw, and I can't wait for Saw 10. But that was like the most I went. And then like John Carpenter's Halloween. Other than that, I've never really been into horror movies. One of my friends is very into it. But I would rather watch anything more than horror, but that's changed over the years because I think it changed with Hereditary and then Midsommar, even though Midsommar's not that scary. I think when I saw Hereditary, that is genuinely one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. Like though the years of like Hereditary before and after, like recently, there's been so many good horror movie. And it's unfortunate that my eye of horror was kind of like the BS horror, the cheap scares, the bad acting, straight to DVD. Like that's what I thought of horror. And that is far from it. I don't know if it's just gotten better over the past like 5-6 years in terms of quality than it was like 10-20 years ago when I knew of horror. But oh my gosh, horror has like, at least for me, like look, you may write in the comments, you have no idea what you're talking about. But for me, horror's just like become one of my favorite genres in movies and in gaming. I played like all the Resident Evil games like back to back leading up to Resident Evil 4. Now Resident Evil 4, the remake, is my favorite game of all time. The game's not that scary. The other ones are more scary, but just the horror genre with games or movies, I'm all for it, man. And Talk to Me was one of the best horror movies I've seen. It was original. It was short. I can't tell you how kind of annoyed I've been with all these 3-hour movies, 2.5-hour movies, whether they're good or not. It's just, it was nice going into this movie, and it was packed, by the way. I'm not sure how much money this movie has been making because of the Barbie Oppenheimer hype, but this theater was packed and I was excited for that. And this movie is well worth it. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's kind of inspiring also that this movie was made by two older YouTubers. Raka Raka, I think is their name. And just a tremendous movie. Just, it wasn't scary. It was more disturbing than anything. Also, the story was very emotional too. I cared about the characters. It was compelling. And another thing that leaving the movie kind of made me scratch my head, but now that I think about it, makes it better, is there's possession in this movie. There's entities. You see the creepy people, the dead people, blah blah blah, and you even get to see a glimpse of, this isn't spoilers, but you get to see a glimpse of what's going on behind the scenes. But it's never explained. There's no exposition. It's like, that's another thing about some horror movies. They tell more than show. So you don't get to like interpret it yourself or have your own imagination. This is just how it is. But with horror and like thrillers and like, you know, anxiety ridden stories and all that stuff, I think it's better to be told less about why a certain thing is happening. And I feel like this movie, it has its lore. The directors and writers were more compelled to telling you the story about how the characters get out of it, more so than why it's happened. What's like the details of, and that was interesting. And now it just makes me think of my own imagination of what the certain things are. The ending was kind of abrupt, but again, I didn't mind it. I've just been so used to so many of these long movies. It was like, oh shit, it's been 90 minutes. Oh my gosh. But overall, talk to me, 4 out of 5 stars, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Just tremendous movie. And then the last things I saw this month, I just watched them back to back because I had the curiosity to go back and watch them again back to back, was the Jackass movies. When Jackass Forever came out last year, it was exciting because, you know, you're getting some of the crew back together, you know, unfortunately with Ryan Dunn's death 10 years ago, and then Bam Margera being kicked out of the film, and even the new people. It's like, you're so used to like your original crew, you don't want new people. Like, no, I don't want Jackass or all that stuff, even though they're fine and like poopies and all that. They're fine, but Jackass Forever, you watch the movie and you just come out of it a little sad because like these guys are older now. They can't do as much as they can, nor do they want to. And also we've lost some people physically or, you know, mentally with like Bam and all that stuff, with all the crap going on with him. And so watching the original movie, 2002, 2006, 2010, man, do I miss those days. I miss those prime Jackass days of like turning on MTV, watching the movies, you know, hiding the fact that you're watching those movies from your parents, because 10 years old watching Steve-O freaking snort wasabi. Like, it was such a classic group of guys doing stuff that is my type of humor. I'm all for that. The skateboarding culture, the stuntman stuff, playing Tony Hawk as a kid with your friends, always picking Bam Margera, wanting to be Bam, Viva La Bam. Those days were so memorable for me, and I miss it. And seeing Jackass Forever last year made me not like the movie, it just made me want to go see the original ones more. And watching them the past couple days has been a treat. If you've never seen the Jackass movies, if you're not into it, I get it. But it's just makes for, I'm crying laughing after every bit. And especially Jackass 2 and 3. Jackass 2 is like when they're most drugged up, mean, nasty versions of themselves. And then when you see like Jackass 2 2006, and then you watch it 10 minutes after it ends with Jackass 3D, and you see a sober Steve-O. You know, Jackass 2, he's like at the height of his drug use. And then Jackass 3D, he's like 2 years sober. And then you see what he's become now. It was wild. It was just kind of seeing in a matter of like 2 hours, seeing the difference of years of progress between addiction, unfortunately seeing what Bam has become. It was a good time. So if you've never watched Jackass, if it's been a while, I recommend those movies. And so I think that's everything I watched in July. August seems like it's going to be kind of a slow month. You know, you have the Ninja Turtles and then Gran Turismo, even though I'm more of a Forza guy. But yeah, I'll still be watching old movies and my favorites or new TV shows. But this was everything I watched in July. And let me know in the comments if you've watched the same movies as me. If you watch something awesome in July and then you recommend to me, leave it down in the comments. I'm all for it. So that's going to make it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!